Good evening, good evening, good evening. This is Reginal, drummer, the peopleologist, and welcome to another episode of We Are Ready. Should be a powerful show this evening. I'll be joined by our local uh, personal help person, Miss Sha'ria Thomas. We'll go by the proper terminology, but she helps people uh, with counseling, assistance, and things of that nature, especially now during COVID-19. We're here every Sunday evening for everybody that's joining us over on the 760-542 number. Welcome, 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 welcome. Uh, should be a powerful show this evening. Uh, and this is the 20th anniversary of 9/11. And 20 years ago, one of the questions that we asked was in our chat earlier was where were you on September the 11th, 2001? And I remember where I was. I was actually in Forsyth County, and I was servicing a client, had was inside a gated community, went in about 7:30, came out somewhere around 10:30, 11 o'clock. I think the first plane had already did what it did, but when I came to the guard shack, I saw a lot of activity. I saw a lot of security guards and a lot of other people. I said, man, what are they doing? Watching TV? Well, when I got there, that's when we saw the second plane hit the building. And that was very impactful. Uh, that whole situation, changed my life, the way I look at stuff, and uh, the way others look at different things here in America. Well, one of the things that I first saw was I thought it was a movie, because part of our mind set is to make it easier to deal with. So I thought it was, I guess just unconsciously, I just thought it was a movie. And when matter of fact, I thought it was Independence Day, reminding me of Independence Day, seeing the building come down like it did. And, and then I found out it was real. And a couple of days later, we started to find out the after effects of it. Okay. Everything was on the news. Uh, no matter who or where, wherever you went, somebody was talking about 9/11. Okay. And it's 20 years ago. So it made me think about today with COVID-19, certificate of vaccination ID number 19, certificate of vacation ID number 19, however you look at it. Uh, it made me think about 20 years from now, how will we look at COVID-19? Okay. How will we reflect on it? What will we be thinking about it? And we have to ask ourselves, many things pass by us, they go away. And we have to look at ourselves and we say, this too shall pass. So when we look at where we are today, and this is September the 12th, 2021, and welcome everybody to the We Are Ready session. We still have to ask ourselves, how are these things affecting us, me as an individual? Anytime I see trauma or experience trauma, whether it's local trauma, something that affects me directly, because 9/11 it did affect me in some manner. I thought about so much of, but actually, what could I do? A lot of lives were lost, and at some point, we sacrifices had to be made. For the betterment of the country. At least that's what they told us, and that put us in a position where we we had to, make some critical decisions. Things changed right around us. No matter who we are, uh, we had to make some changes, some abrupt changes. One of the things that and this is going with uh, back in September of 2001. We were already getting prepared for uh, 2000. You remember when they said the world was going in, all the computers was going to jack up, and all this type stuff, and we put ourselves into a mindset of what preparing ourselves all over America. And so I was kind of ready for something, but we weren't ready for what happened. And there are many stories. I think now we know a lot more about 9/11 than we did 20 years ago. I think some of the things that uh, I think Cynthia McKinney had put some stuff out there. We said, man, this is not the time to be talking about America like this. You know, we just got hit. We just got attacked. And, that put us all on notice because America got attacked. And when America got attacked, we started to feel the vulnerability of being here in America. But it also brought Americans together, at least for one day, because for one day, they didn't care who you were. Everybody was mobilized in New York City to help each other. When they saw that building get blown up, people started to feel a little bit of humanity. Okay? People started to feel good about helping each other. They didn't even think about it. They just went into action. And that's the good thing about human nature. We will uh, uh, we will rise to the occasion. So today, 20 years later, we have to ask ourselves, when will we rise to the occasion? And what I mean by that, we are in a situation where we say, um, America's in a situation. COVID-19, uh, we've got storms and floods, fires, all kind of stuff happening. Then still we got all these other issues, cancer, uh, uh, police brutality, suppression of vote. We said, well, people still think Donald Trump's coming back after the 18th of September. People are divided on whether to wear a mask or not wear a mask. People are divided on whether to get a vaccine or not to get a vaccine. And you say, well, man, what is it going to take for all these people to get together? Because we divided. Houses are being divided. And we've been challenged once again, 20 years after 9/11. And all the people that had lost their lives, you know, you know, after 9/11. We got the American flag behind. You can see it. Let me dodge it. I can see the camera. But all the people that lost their lives because after the second day, people started thinking about the flag. After, the first day, people wasn't thinking about nothing but helping people. After that, it became personal. I remember George Bush said, "We're gonna get these folk. We're gonna hunt them to the end of the world," and that's how we got into Afghanistan. And a couple of weeks ago, we got out of there. 20 years, and I think a couple $1 trillion and a whole lot of stuff. But again, we in a situation. What's going to rally Americans up to come on board? What's going to motivate Americans to want to get? Oh yes, what's going to motivate Americans to want to come together? One thing about this country, when it's time to come on board and it's time to get together, we get together. So don't give up hope. Just like when 9/11 happened, anytime there's a major disaster or a major situation, we come together. And as people, we have to look at these situations to see how they affect us individually, and then how they affect us as a community. Okay, that's going to be very interesting because um, it's the community that comes up against problems and solve problems. Okay, we don't have to be by ourselves. We don't have to be alone. Uh, and during this time period, I know a lot of anxiety. Just like 20 years ago, people needed help after 9/11. You know, different people from different cultures were being attacked in the streets. Because anytime, like I said, the first day everybody was on point. Everybody was trying to help each other and all that type of stuff. The second day, they started talking about America being attacked and getting revenge. That put a lot of people on the chopping blocks. A lot of people from different countries, uh, especially in the Islamic community. My brothers and sisters uh, had to take one for the team, you know, and they were on personal attacks. People got, a lot of other things started to happen. And it's just like that now with COVID-19. Uh, People against each other, they are attacking each other, they're making things uh, harder from other people. So during this time, we need help. We need somebody to talk to. Anytime you have a situation, there are many avenues out there to help you relieve some of the pain, to relieve some of the anxiety, some of the built-in pressure. Okay, just like 20 years ago, we got over this. 20 years from now, we will be out of this COVID-19, whether we call it certificate of vaccination ID number 19 or certificate of vacation ID number 19. I think we have our super special guest, Miss Sha'ria Thomas. Are you out there this evening, Miss Sha'ria, Miss Thomas?
I am. Good evening. How are you?
Ah,
Can you
good
hear me? Can you
evening.
see me?
Yes, ma'am. I see you loud and clear. You're looking good.
Wonderful. Same here. Thank you for having me again, drummer. I definitely appreciate it. I'm glad that I could be a host, a actual. I'm used to hosting. Excuse me. I am a guest today, so I'm thankful to be a guest on your show today.
Okay. Well, you're always family, and just like we were sharing with the audience, 20 years ago we came through 9/11. Okay.
Yes.
Now we currently in another situation, COVID-19, uh, and a lot of families are up. They're dealing with a lot. People are dealing with a lot of anxiety. Matter of fact, uh, people are dealing with this particular situation from so many different viewpoints. Uh,
Hmm.
and people need help. Uh, and I know you bring a lot to the table when it comes down to helping people from a professional position where people can get help and people can put themselves and their families in a position so they don't have to suffer. So
Yes.
without any further ado, welcome, and I know you got some great information to share with us this evening. Uh, but maybe I could start with a question. Uh,
Most.
you know, the when you look at September 11th, 9/11, that was 20 years ago,
Hmm.
and then you look at 20 years later, we have another challenge, which is COVID-19. Uh,
Yes.
uh, I don't know where practicing, in that field then, but what are some of the similarities? What's some of the things you see people dealing with that they dealt with during, even though it was a distance for a lot of people, and COVID is a lot more personal, but
Hmm.
to some people, it's still distance because they themselves or their family hadn't experienced a COVID related, but we see the news and, you know, we hear about it every day.
Hmm.
So, I mean, do you see some similarities between these two situations, how it affects people's mindsets and, how they look at stuff and cause anxiety and stress?
Very good question, drummer. As you were speaking on 911, I was reflecting on where was I, what I was doing at that time. 20 years, the anniversary from 9/11. Here we are, and experiencing the impact of COVID over now a year. What it's been a year and a half since COVID has impacted the world. So going back 20 years, 9/11, actually, I was in the educational field. I was a preschool teacher, a pre-K teacher at that time. So I was not a licensed therapist as of that time. But I remember that day distinctly because um, I actually was not feeling well. I'm a very sensitive
Mm.
person, and I did not go to work that day. And this was prior to turning on the television and seeing that the airplanes had hit the Twin Towers. And I was in a very reflective mood, and I just started to write. Um, and so I myself felt very off that day for some reason. Um, but the effect after was very somber. I could myself, my family, we all got together and just kind of talked about and prayed for the families, the people that were impacted that day. And when I returned to work, it was really, even some were just kind of fearful and didn't even have their children come and bring their children to school. Although we were in Atlanta, this happened um, in New York, but they still were in a fear mode. And I think the similarity there is definitely that sense of fear and that sense of the lack of or sense of safety as well, that safety has been taken. The sense, I
Mm.
say it in terms of the feeling as if that safety is no longer there. And so that's where our fear comes in because we don't know. And when we don't know, that creates a lot of uncertainty. That's just human nature. So I believe that is the similarities that can be felt, amongst the world is a sense of in the uncertainty of it all, what is about, how does it affect us, even still here now today. So many have been affected by COVID, their lives, their livelihoods, and so that fear still lingers with many. And I felt that then as an educator, a pre K teacher, not even within the field of counseling and mental health at that time. And that appears to be the similarity that I see.
Wow. Because, like you say, that um, fear, when people don't understand something,
Mm-hmm.
um, get scared and they they attack people, because after 9/11, a lot of my Muslim brothers and sisters, even foreigners that look different, people were afraid of them, you know,
Yeah.
uh, and a lot of the stereotypes started to come out, and even like now with COVID within families, fear, people scared, people go back and forth about the mask wearing, people go back and forth about being vaccinated, non-vaccinated, people go back and forth about so much, and then we also got political issues because there's still, people, you know, they turn everything into possible hate situation, whether it be abortion, whether it be voting, anything, and
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of escalated because of the the virus. But maybe there's some tips for people out
Mm-hmm.
there that experiencing some depression, because people get depressed, they get uh, you know, and I think the news is a lot more heavier today than it was 20 years ago. Because
Exactly.
20 years ago we kind of trusted the media. I think
Mm-hmm.
when 9/11 happened, that was one of the first distrusts that we had, major for the media. See, now people really don't believe what they see on the news. And we got many other options and places to look for our information. So everybody's not seeing the same stuff. Back 20 years ago, you either saw it on CNN, ABC, Fox, uh, CBS, but now you got thousands of platforms that's telling you about where we are now, COVID-19, this situation. So people are really divided. They really being polarized. And when they get polarized, they tend to bring out those prejudice against other people, and that turns into hate and all that type stuff. But um, what are some of the things that you've done personally, or that you recommend uh, to your clients when it comes down to dealing with something like this? COVID is a lot more personal,
Mm-hmm.
because once that event happened, that was pretty much it. Well, people did have to experience their sons and daughters going to either Afghanistan or I think Iraq over the last
Yes.
20 years. So we had a lot of people that lose lives, not, either they lost their lives or their sons and daughters lost their lives in that particular battle. But now we got people, facing this new battle. And maybe 20 years from now, we'll look back and we'll say, man, goodness, mm, we'll ask where we were, but we'll say, what did we do to survive? But, maybe my question is, uh, what dealing with this, and it's a lot more personal with this COVID, what are some of the challenges you see maybe with your clients or with people in general?
What are some of the challenges that I see with my clients and people in general? What I see for my clients, and I'll start with that, is it's been a commonality of learning how to better manage their, I don't like to say manage, let me start that over, regulate our emotions, because our emotions, whether we feel them as positive or negative, they are just that. They are to be felt, and they are an indicator to help us to be able to better deal with situations. But their emotional state has become unstable, even for those who have been very resilient in their lives, may begin to experience depression, anxiety, and this is in the general population as well. And so, with those challenges, is better learning how to navigate one's mental health. And the big stigma for mental health has been around for a very long time, and especially within our own community as African Americans, the stigma still lies when it comes to mental health and embracing it as a need, just as essential as our physical health. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and so, learning how to better deal with situations that trigger our emotional state to feel stressed, to feel anxious and depressed because your livelihood may have changed, or just the sense of, last year, and even some countries are still just coming out of quarantine and isolation around the world. So it's learning how to navigate this new lifestyle in terms of it being less social interaction, or actually still having a sense of well-being, and it's still enjoying life, but with the limitations that it's created. So many have been impacted by it. Um, and so what I've been helping with clients, even family members, friends, is just ensuring that first we have to stay resilient with faith, believing that everything will be okay. Um, Big thing is accepting uncertainty. And again, going back to that sense of wanting to know and being able to um, have some factual state of what do I do, building tools of getting there. So I definitely can share just some tips. Of course, if
Okay.
there is some serious disturbing events that someone may have experienced, definitely when it comes to violence or something impactful, I definitely encourage professional help, seeking counseling, therapy to assist someone, but just reaching out for help, period, and letting someone know that you are struggling. I am going through something. Sometimes we can let our pride get in the way and not be willing to reach out. So number one is get the help you need, even if it is speaking to a family or friend, and let them know that you're stressed, what you're going through, and hopefully just in that's a start. So some just wellness tips, if we get into just a mindset of learning how to put our mental state first, we can be so physical and so caught up in how the appearance is, but what about how we feel in here and in here, and really embracing that and taking care of that. So number one is learn how to deal with difficult times. We are still in
Mm,
difficult times for many, although, we want to learn how to be more resilient. And in building resiliency is what can be definitely helpful is more problem solving. When you think about, we all worry just as human beings. It's only natural that a worry thought may come to your mind, but it's what do you do with that worry? And some people will just spiral into it, and that will create that sense of overwhelmed, feeling distressed, and then the body can start to respond with that, with headaches, with stomach aches, tension in the body, and those are actual signs of anxiety, and people may not identify that, but it is. So start to write things down more. Be willing to take out some time, whether it is just a few minutes a day, to write things down that are upsetting. If you can, I know just kind of a common thing that even just all of us may go through. Everybody at some point has been upset and wanted to communicate about something that was bothering them. Even
mm,
myself, I know I've text something, then not sent it because as you reflect back on it, may not be a good thing to really follow up on and hit that send button or that email. So write it out. What that does is it helps the mind to just process that information, think it through before acting on the emotion. And
mm,
oftentimes that can give that extra pause you need to just stop, and it can create that calm moment or even move us at least to problem solving. And that's the next one I want to go to is just how can we get into problem solving when the mind is so filled with fear, with worry? It creates what in my field is called rumination. And when we ruminate, meaning that the thought comes bam bam bam, one after the other. um, and so when we're in a worried state, it doesn't create us to have solutions. So first off, we want to take the time and know, okay, I have options. And if that is to, again, the sense of what is my problem? What are my options? What can I do about it? And I even literally have for myself and even other clients that I work with is that we'll do a problem solving list. And that helps that slowing down of the mind. First
mm,
thing, of course, physical, we always say is deep breathing. The whole point of deep breathing and slowing down the breath is because we don't get enough oxygen to the brain when we are in more of that heightened emotional state. So we want to bring the breath to a slow pace to help us slow it down, think it through. But then that practical thing is, yes, let's write it down. Let's see, well, what is actually the problem? Let's assess the problem. Let's walk it through and look at these are what options you do have. Because often when we are in a worried state, we're not thinking of this is what I can do. I'm just worried about it's not going right. I don't know what I can do. I can't go to the store, whatever it is that maybe in the past, maybe a few months ago, prior to COVID, that someone was so used to doing, now they are limited. And so they don't see any options of what's next. And so that's where, as a
Mm.
therapist, I come in to help them to see, let's bring in what reality is, bring them back to this is what is possible, the possibilities, and bring those possibilities in. Now, I could go on for days, drummer, with tips. So you have to tell me when to
Oh yeah, but I got my notepad because I'm
stop.
writing some of those things down. Because as a male, sometimes we don't like to write things down.
Uh-huh.
Most guys are drunk. I started writing when I was in school. But that it does relieve some of the pressure because you can see it. I think somewhere there's
Exactly.
they said write it down, make it plain. Uh, so I was writing that down and the tips that you shared because when it comes down to problem solving, I think that's where we get a lot of the interaction between people that can can become hazardous to your health. We had a lady a couple weeks ago. She had been vaccinated, and she went to work,
Mm-hmm.
and she did not realize that there would be people in her work environment that it was just like she was a kid back in third grade. They
Yeah.
wrote on the form, they call her a
Yeah.
guinea pig, and she ended up getting in a physical altercation with the lady at work. These are grown people, all
Mm-hmm.
because uh, of how someone else felt. And people, maybe she had thought about it. Maybe she had wrote that down and said, you know what? How do I really feel about people that's vaccinated?
There we go.
And thought about it. Maybe she would not have brought that to the work environment, and maybe her and that young lady might not have got into altercation. But
Most.
you know, and it makes me think. I got to do a plug for my T-shirt. Thinking ain't illegal yet.
Uh-oh.
I think once they outlaw thinking, we all doomed.
Mm.
I mean,
Mm-hmm.
because it's critical that we think, because it helps you avoid a lot of conflict. And even when you bombard it with all the information uh, that we got more information now than we had back in September 11th, 2001.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know, it wasn't like, see, today, not only do the news networks send stuff out, you get stuff on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all these spaces, and we got the disadvantage of algorithms. So
Mm.
if you put yourself in a box, a square box, they will bombard your mind daily with information that caters to you. So it makes it
Right.
easier for you to polarize yourself. You know, uh, and you know, we have to be able to dissect all this stuff and see it because it's coming at us full speed. Especially for younger people. Uh, we got families. I just had a family call, and usually we do a family call once a month.
Mm-hmm.
And in my family unit, uh, most of the people in my family that's less than 35, they not, they got a different opinion about the vaccinations than the
Yes.
older ones. I
Right.
mean,
Right.
and it was kind of interesting. And I've had the conversation with my family members because, my son, my nieces, nephews, cousins, and different ones, and I have to understand. I have to respect their opinion and their choices. Now, sometimes as we get kind of, you know, indoctrinated into our position, we don't want to waver. We want to
Mm,
stay. We say, well, this, if you're not with me, uh, we take it personal. So I try
right.
not to take it personal, because I feel that everybody's got the right to choose whatever. But
Yes.
but do you see families? Uh, and for anybody that's got any questions or comments, but one of the questions or comments that I did see out there, do you see families having to have hard decisions when it comes down to now COVID-19 because of being vaccinated, unvaccinated?
In terms of creating a divide and how it affects the family unit.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Because you might have somebody say, well, hey, uh, I'm not. Uh, they might move in with a. I've seen a situation where a younger person moved in with their
Mhm.
elderly parent
Yes.
and caused a conflict. But do you see a lot of that lately?
Oh, yes. Over the past year and a half, there has been a more increasing rate in terms of interpersonal relationships, meaning relationships with others that become very distressed, even where some family members will decide to no longer interact with one another,
Mm,
because of their very strong beliefs and determining that the relationship is not worth salvaging if that belief is not respected. Now, I
right.
have been helpful with some of my clients with helping them to soften those beliefs so that it maintains the relationship, but that they can maintain boundaries, healthy boundaries with their family members, but not totally in the relationship. And that comes
Mm,
with building more understanding, more compassion, more kindness to one another. Just a sense of first, let's demonstrate more respect. And so when we have, say, one family member who is very stern on this is the way things should be, meaning that they
mm,
create a rule of how it has to be, and if you're not doing this, wearing a mask or whatever it may be, then we can't associate. And that is very disheartening and hurtful for someone who loves a family member, but they are just so set in their ways. And so, yes, that is very common.
mm,
How to deal with that is, again, the sense of acceptance. And practice
mm,
what's called radical acceptance. We use the word radical acceptance because some things are just totally out of our control. But when we try
mm.
to create the sense of, I've got to fix it, I've got to make it right, sometimes we just need to be willing to accept that, man, this really sucks. Man, this really
Okay.
hurts. And I wish things were better, but I have to accept that this is the way it is. And so practicing that sense of radical acceptance has helped many. And I would encourage, our listening audience, our viewers today to consider how can they implement that if they know that they are struggling or have a family member who is very set with this is how things should be. I'll even share, personally in terms of my parents for a very long time were very adamant about wearing a mask around them. And so it's a level of respect, even though
Mm,
if If I may choose when I'm outside not to wear a mask because I'm in just outdoors, um, if that is what is important to them out of respect and out of love for them, then I'm willing to make that compromise. And so, how can we be willing to create more of a compromise instead of this rigid rule of how it should be? We are all
Right.
entitled to our own personal rights and our own beliefs, and we can meet in the middle. So let's look at how can we be willing to understand each other's perspectives and meet in the middle and maintain that level of respect.
That's good. That's good. Because that happens a lot, and that's a real life uh situation that's happening in so many families, and some people have actually gotten into violent exchanges, uh,
Mm-hmm.
because uh, it's people people are scared, and when people are scared, they have their built-in fears, and you amplify that with anxieties, distress, and all these things. They really lock down. That's the only thing they got to hold on to is what they really believe.
Yes.
You know, and just like when 20 years ago, 9/11. The first day we were sharing, people came together. They was humans. Everybody, they wasn't thinking about nothing but helping each other.
Yes. Yes.
Everybody in New York, they just came together. But September the 12th, they went
Uh,
crazy. They started saying that people that they were un-American, they were non-terrorists. They labeled a lot of people, a lot of Muslims. They labeled them. They just in general. A lot of my brothers and sisters had many problems after 9/11.
mm-hmm.
Even brothers that were Indians, Pakistan, because Americans really, they were so fearful. They didn't even see them as regular people. They just saw them as terrorists. So
Yes.
fast forward today, uh, when people are up against the wall, or they think they're up against the wall, they say, "Hey, man, I've been hearing on the news that young people are more more likely to be infected." Uh, I've had a guy that said, I heard on the news that more people that live in the urban areas are more likely to be infected. So uh, people have these thoughts in them, and then they get reinforced, based on the information that they receive. If they go to a social media platform, they're getting bombarded with all this information that builds up their belief system. Uh, you know, do you have any advice for people when, because people are overly informed. So, do you have any advice for people that's getting, so much information until it's not the virus that's killing them, it's the information. uh, but do you have any advice for people that's just getting beat with all this, and it's too much for them sometimes, and they put themselves in
Mm-hmm.
a position where they alienated themselves from their family?
Hmm.
I
Give
guess
me
that's my
advice for
question.
people. Okay. That they've that alienated themselves from their family. And I would suggest when it comes to you named two, key things that you were discussing that drummer, that the over information being overstimulated, because sometimes we can be overstimulated by information. And are you still able to hear me okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, good, good. So sometimes we can be overstimulated by information. A thing I said was boundaries. So again, in terms of relating to others and in connection with others, if we set some boundaries, even on ourselves, on our time, what we're taking in to our senses, what you see, what you hear, knowing that it's okay to set a limit on the information, Um, and also in the midst of it all is when we experience certain challenges just throughout life, there's going to be, say, 5 years from now, a year from now, there'll be something else that may come up. So a challenge, crisis that we experience, we still want to continue to live and live fully. There, there is so much tension that can be created, but if we can create a balance of, on the other end is also how to not take things so serious all the time. So if we can shift our focus, meaning that yes, there are those elements that you believe what you believe and you may, that may be very important for you, but how can you also invest your energy, your thought process on more things that are get you into a zone to where you can zone out. Meaning, when I say zone out, meaning get in the zone where you're more in tune with what's a a type of environment that you create for yourself that is separate from what others may say, what the media is saying, that you're not able over absorbed and overstimulated by that information. And we can get in that zone by being able to identify, well, what, what things in your life are good for you, that feel good for you, that are healthy for you too, and putting your attention to that. Because when we're just trying to control, when we get in that space of trying to control the elements of what he does, what she does, what I'm doing, we can only influence what we think that affects how we feel and what we do. And so we can shift
Mm-hmm.
that focus to be more in tune with creating. When I say get in that zone, is okay, yes, this person may believe this and I may believe that, but at the end of the day, how is it impacting overall? And how serious it will it be in a month, a year from now, and being able to look at it in the bigger perspective so we don't take on so much of the heaviness all the time. Um,
Mm-hmm.
that's what I would encourage.
Okay. Uh, I would. We had a question because a lot of times people say, "Well, you know what, drummer? Man, I'm gonna handle this on my own. I'm gonna pray. I'm gonna ask God to give me direction." Uh,
Hmm.
but I have to ask, because and even as men, because men we think we can carry the load, but what's the advantage of having like a life coach?
Hmm.
Someone like yourself to kind of whether it be an individual or family or community
Hmm.
to help us get through these type situations.
Yeah.
What's one of the primary advantages?
What is the advantage of a life coach? Well, first off, I will make it clear that I'm both a licensed professional counselor and a certified life coach, meaning that the two are different in terms of, as a licensed professional counselor, I can diagnose mental and emotional and behavioral disorders. So your generalized anxiety, major depression, bipolar disorder, schizophrenia. Actually have the credentials to diagnose those more serious disorders. Now, for the other end, where we're talking about in terms of a certified life coach and someone who just may be going through transitions in life, such as the challenges of being able to better navigate their life now that they experience maybe job loss, or divorce, there's a death in the family, there is strain and stress of just being able to manage day to day life, or helping them with building skills or being more confident. Now they play intertwined. I can do that as a counselor, but the focus is not so much in terms of, say, your mental health disorders. And that's the separation in terms of a certified life coach to a professional counselor where I can diagnose. So to be able to benefit the community is helping to build those tools. It's helping to better be able to understand each other, sit and be able to listen, developing. Some people don't know how to listen, to just be active, to actually actively engage, to be receptive and open to hear the other person's
Mm-hmm.
perspective. And so as a therapist and a coach, in those roles, I work with families. I do work with families, individuals, couples, because in relationship with others, we have to develop our level of communication, being able to assertively communicate. We may be talking. There's a difference between talking and communicating. And so some people, I'm not going to say many, unfortunately, some people don't have, never developed the skill to know how to assertively communicate, to receive information and give information, instead of it being that they're looking to just discuss what their point is and not be open to the receiving end of what's coming from the other person. And so I literally, in some sessions with clients, is to actually build those skills. And so as a community, we may be deficient in some of those areas of, we may never learn, growing up, or just in terms of as a family unit and as a community family unit, to have those tools and skills to know how to better navigate even just life in general, to where we are living more of a healthier, happier, and more peaceful life. And so that is what I have to offer. That is what a life coach has to offer. And even if it were counseling, a counselor can bring that perspective in as well.
Mm. And how would people get in contact with you? Your website or contact number information?
Yes, most definitely. They can contact me by going to my website at shariathomas.com. That's SHARIA Thomas, THOMAS .com. Um, can also email at info@shariathomas.com. And I periodically try to stay connected on our social media, and at least, maybe once or twice a week. I do need to get better at that, trying, just to share and give information, encouragement, to our world community. So you can also check me out on I am Sha'ria Thomas on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter.
Okay, okay. And we definitely
Oh, snap. Oh,
appreciate uh, your information, what you shared with us this evening. Uh, it's always good to have, you know, a professional person to come in and share some things. We have our opinions, we have our thoughts, and we have our beliefs. But now it's critical sometimes that within our family units that we get some professional help, especially black, brown, indigenous, the misinformed, the uneducated, poor whites, and a lot of others. We have to, better equip ourselves to survive. Uh, One of the things I want to put out because of being part of We Are Ready, we thank Ms. Thomas for a plethora of information. Like I said, you need to play this back and tag and share this with your family and your friends because we got family members that are dealing with some situation. Maybe you good, maybe you all right, but your family is suffering about this time. But you know, during this time period, there's a lot of challenges out there. I think uh, we were looking at the crate challenge where people lined up crates and they climbed up them, walked up the crates. I saw people put crates out that two sets of crates, like the World Trade Centers, and they walked up them and, they made it up. Well, we got our own challenge and we got three things. One is over the next 100 days, spend at least 1 hour a week, just 1 hour with me, myself, and I. That's you. And you'll find out that me, myself, and I are really friends. As a peopleologist, we have to understand this. Just, most people don't get the opportunity to spend 1 hour a week with themselves unless they're in a hospital, hooked to some tubes, and then they start to think, Who am I? What do I want? And how do I see myself getting there? And number two, we encourage people to take some form of physical exercise during this COVID-19 certificate of vacation or certificate of vaccination ID number 19. We encourage you to walk, crawl, hop at least a mile every day over the next 100 days. If you do that for the next 100 days, guess what? You will have walked, crawl, or hop 100 miles, okay, over the next 100 days going into the new year. We'll also encourage people to save $1 a day. If you save at least $1 a day over the next 100 days, you will have $100 for you, for me, myself, and I. Pay your bills, do all that type stuff. Now, we got some people that's a remember this thing is set up to be a discipline thing. The me, myself, and I, 1 hour a week, the 1 mile a day, and the $1 a day. Now, if you are above average person, save $10 a day, and you'll have $1,000 to do whatever you want to do with it at the first of the year. Now, if you're above exceptional person, you will save $100 a day over the next 100 days, and guess what? You will have $10,000. $10,000 will get your weight right for the new year. Trust me on that. So, however you look at it, plus we have people that are very creative. They said, Drummer, you know what? I like your little things that you're doing. I like the 1 hour, spending with yourself, getting yourself, finding out about yourself and, doing your own personal stuff. And I like the walking, crawling, or hopping, or running a mile a day. That's good. And then your little thing where you do the $1 a day, that's a good thing. I think I'm gonna let my granddaughters and grandkids do that. But what I'm gonna do, brother, share this with me. I'm gonna find 10 people that's willing to do $10 a day, and then in 100 days, as a group, we're gonna have $10,000. Now I want you to think for 1 second. What can a group of people do with $10,000 that is already disciplined, already thinking? Thinking ain't illegal yet. They can do some things, buy some property, whatever you want to do. So those are some thoughts that we're putting out there for us to be ready. However this thing goes, just like when 20 years ago, 2001, when 9/11 happened, remember that? People thought the world was going to end. And it did for a lot of people. But can you imagine if 20 years ago you had bought something and invested some money in something, a property or something, you're still here. So 20 years from now, whether you think about it or not, there's some things that we can do to make our lives better. And I have to share one prepper note with everybody because when we talk about we are ready, we got to be ready. Okay. And I think over the next couple of weeks, we're really going to go into details about being ready. I always give you a tip, something that you can do to prepare yourself to be ready. We've got fires on the West Coast. We got floods down south, Louisiana, the Gulf Coast. We got floods in New York and New Jersey up there, and we got stuff going on in the Mid East. I mean, the Midwest. All tornadoes, hurricane, all this stuff. But we have to figure out how we're going to be prepared. How we're going to prepare ourselves to survive. One of the things that you can do is, and I encourage everyone to do this, in your little bag, we'll talk about the bag, putting your bag together that if you had to run like that, get up out your house, get up out your place, you got to have a bag ready with something. Well, if you got medicines, meds, or you got to have something that you can grab real quick and you can go. Okay. One of the things that you need to have in that bag uh, is a mixture of Listerine and peroxide. Listerine and peroxide. Listerine and peroxide will help you in many cases. Okay, if you get a cut, you get an infection. There was a guy today had a bee bug, a bee had a bee sting, and he put that on there, and it helped him. Uh, Over the last couple of weeks, I had people that had mouth and tooth infection. Peroxide and Listerine, not that modern day Listerine, the blue, the green, and all that type of stuff. I'm talking about old school Listerine and a little peroxide. You should keep that with you in your bag because if you can't get to, you're gonna get cut. You're gonna get some type of infection. You might not be able to get to a doctor. Uh, so peroxide and Listerine. So that's our tip for this evening to make sure that we are ready. During this time period, we don't have to freak out. We'll bring these to you every week. And we'll bring some guests on. We're looking for more guests. We're looking for people that have survived COVID-19. And I see it every day. So with that being said, I love you like God loves the world. And guess what? If you if you stay ready, you don't have to get ready. Okay? You don't have to get ready. Prepare yourself at all times. Continue to pray, continue to fast, continue to meditate. This is Reginal Drummer, the peopleologist. We'd like to thank Ms. Thomas for the great information that she gave us this evening. Powerful information. This can help you. This can help me. This can help our community. I encourage you to like, share, tag, whatever those things you do in social media. We'd like to thank our producer of this show, Miss Adrian Coleman, for putting us out here and getting us out to the different platforms. And we thank you most of all for continuing to share, like, and spread the news. We are ready. I encourage you to have a great day. Remember this: the secret to walking on water, knowing where the rocks are. Okay? Make it a great day. And we'll definitely see you at the top or from the top. And guess what? The view is just so clear from up here. God bless America. And for everybody that